The scent hit me first. It was faint, barely noticeable, but it lingered, a trace of perfume, floral and unfamiliar, clinging to the passenger seat of her car. I wouldn't have noticed if I hadn't dropped my phone between the seats that afternoon. My fingers brushed against something cool as I groped blindly in the narrow space. I pulled it out, a delicate silver bracelet, the kind with tiny charms dangling off the chain. I stared at it, my pulse quickening. What the hell? I murmured under my breath, turning it over in my palm. It wasn't hers. I knew that for sure. Lauren wasn't the type to wear dainty jewelry. She preferred bold, statement pieces, chunky bangles, large hoops, things that stood out. This was understated, almost shy. Not her style. I told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe a friend's? Maybe she gave someone a ride. But even as I tried to rationalize it, a nagging feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. I could have just asked her, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped the bracelet into my pocket and told myself it wasn't worth bringing up. Not yet. That night, as we lay in bed, her body turned slightly away from mine. I could feel the space between us, a quiet, invisible distance that had been growing lately. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself we were just busy, caught up in life, and things would go back to normal. But her breathing was steady, too steady, like someone pretending to be asleep. Long day, I asked softly. MMHMM, she murmured, her voice muffled by the pillow. Anything interesting happen? Not really. Short, distant, like she was somewhere else entirely. I wanted to ask about the bracelet. I wanted to reach into my pocket, hold it up, and say, "Whose is this?" But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I lay awake long after she drifted off, staring at the ceiling, the weight of unspoken questions pressing down on me. Part 2. Subtle changes. It started small. Little things that didn't add up, but weren't enough to confront her about. Her phone, once casually left on the kitchen counter, was now always face down. The text notifications that used to light up the screen were suddenly silenced. "Why don't you ever put your phone down anymore?" I asked one evening, trying to sound more curious than suspicious. "What?" Her head snapped up, her eyes momentarily wide before her expression smoothed out. "Your phone," I said, nodding toward it. "You're glued to it lately." She laughed softly, but there was a nervous edge to it. "Work's been crazy. You know how it is." "Yeah, sure." But something in her tone didn't sit right. I let it go, but I started noticing more. Her schedule shifted subtly. She was coming home later than usual, citing last-minute meetings and project deadlines. The tiredness in her eyes seemed deeper, but not the kind that came from work. "You've been working late a lot lately," I commented one night as she walked through the door, her face flushed, her hair slightly out of place. "Yeah," she exhaled, dropping her bag on the counter. "It's just been a lot." I kissed her forehead, but she pulled away too quickly, moving toward the kitchen like she needed distance. "Want me to heat up dinner?" I offered. "No, I'm not really hungry." My stomach tightened. Lauren never skipped dinner. I followed her into the kitchen, watching as she busied herself with meaningless tasks, wiping down an already clean counter, rearranging the fruit bowl. "You okay?" I asked gently. "I'm fine," she said too quickly. But she wasn't, and I was starting to wonder if I really wanted to know why. The days dragged on, but the weight in my chest never lightened. Every glance, every touch from her felt like it carried an echo of something I couldn't name. Claire was still Claire, soft laughter, graceful movements, the warmth of her hand in mine. But there was something else now, a layer I couldn't reach. She had grown quieter, not in an obvious way, no slammed doors or cutting remarks. Just a subtle pull, like a tide slowly receding. She smiled when I spoke, nodded at the right moments, but her eyes held a distance that no words could cross. Then there were the nights. She used to curl into me, her breathing even and steady, her hand tangled in the sheets as though afraid I'd drift away. But now, she turned to the edge of the bed, the space between us wide and cold. Some nights, she stirred restlessly, her phone glowing faintly under the cover of darkness. When I asked, she brushed it off. "Just checking emails." And I wanted to believe her. I did. But belief wasn't so easy when the doubts began to multiply. It was a Saturday morning when I ran into David from next door. He was out watering his lawn, his golden retriever weaving between his legs. A man of easy smiles and harmless gossip. We exchanged the usual pleasantries. our conversation drifting like the breeze. Claire mentioned she had a work dinner last week. I said casually, shielding my eyes from the sun. Late night. David blinked. Work dinner? Thought I saw her at the Copper Oak. She wasn't alone, though. The words struck like a crack of distant thunder. I forced my expression to stay neutral. The Copper Oak? Yeah. The corner table. I remember, 'cause Lisa and I were grabbing a drink. Looked like she was having a good time, though. Maybe a client or something. He gave a shrug. Didn't want to interrupt. I smiled, or something like it. Probably. Thanks, Dave. He nodded, already turning back to his yard. But I stood there, the world moving around me while I stood impossibly still. The Copper Oak. She never mentioned that. She said the dinner was at some uptown spot. And the way David spoke, she wasn't alone. My mind scrambled for explanations. A misunderstanding. A misremembered detail. Maybe she simply didn't think it mattered. But the sickness gnawed at the edges of my thoughts. Later that evening, as Claire laughed softly at something on her phone, I fought the urge to ask. The words balanced on the tip of my tongue. Who were you with at the Copper Oak? But I didn't. Not yet. The truth, I knew, had a way of waiting. And so did I. Days passed, but David's words echoed in my mind. An unwelcome refrain I couldn't silence. She wasn't alone. The phrase looped endlessly, creeping in when I least expected, while I showered, while I poured my morning coffee, while Claire moved around me like nothing had changed. But something had. I watched her more carefully now. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't help it. Every glance, every shift in her expression felt magnified, dissected. And once you start looking for cracks, you find them everywhere. Her laughter was softer now, less spontaneous. She'd always laughed with her whole body, head back, eyes crinkling at the corners. But lately, it was quieter, like she was only half there. The phone was the worst. She was never without it now, keeping it close, even in the bathroom. And the notifications, once innocent and random, were fewer, but when they did come, she would glance at the screen with a quick flick of her thumb, her expression unreadable. It was a Wednesday night when I noticed it. I'd been folding laundry in the living room, the TV humming softly in the background. Claire was in the shower, her usual half-hour escape after a long day. Her phone was on the coffee table, face down, of course, but then it vibrated. A single, muffled buzz. I told myself to ignore it. I wasn't that guy. I wouldn't be that husband. But something inside me, something I didn't recognize, was stronger. Before I realized it, I'd picked up the phone. My pulse hammered in my ears as I turned it over. The screen lit up. Unknown number. Miss you. Can't wait to see you again. A chill washed over me, so cold it burned. I stared at the words, my mind scrambling for explanations. Wrong number. Spam message. Some stupid prank. But deep down I knew. My hands were trembling when I placed the phone back, exactly where I'd found it. I stood there, feeling the room close in around me, suffocating in the thick silence. The sound of the shower stopped, and a few moments later, Claire emerged, her hair wrapped in a towel, her skin still glistening with steam. She smiled, that soft, easy smile I used to know so well. Hey, she murmured, leaning down to press a kiss to my cheek. Her lips were warm, but I was ice. I forced a smile, my mind spinning. Everything okay? She asked, her gaze lingering a second too long. Yeah. My voice felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. Just tired, I added, hoping the lie wouldn't show in my eyes. She nodded, running her fingers lightly through my hair before heading to the bedroom. But I stayed behind, rooted to the spot, my mind replaying that message over and over. The next day, I followed the script. I kissed her goodbye, told her I'd be working late. I even forced a laugh when she teased me about not overworking myself. But as soon as she was gone, I was moving. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Proof? Reassurance? Or maybe just the one thing that would finally make the gnawing ache go away. I went to her car first. It was clean, spotless almost. But I knew where to look now. My hands slipped between the seats, fingers brushing against the worn fabric. Nothing. I was about to pull back when my fingertips grazed something cold. My heart stopped. I drew it out slowly, my breath catching in my throat. A ring. Silver. Small. Not hers. Not mine. The ache in my chest spread like wildfire. I turned it over in my palm, my vision blurring. It was delicate, with a tiny heart-shaped charm hanging from the band. Innocent. Almost childlike. But it didn't belong here. Who did it belong to? I stood there for what felt like forever, the world tilting under my feet. Then I slipped the ring into my pocket, my fingers curling tightly around it. I didn't know what hurt more, what I was starting to believe, or the fact that I still wasn't ready to confront her. I carried the ring in my pocket for days, like a weight I couldn't put down. It pressed against my leg with every step, a cold reminder that something was wrong, something I wasn't ready to face. I told myself I needed more. More proof. More clarity. But the truth was, I wasn't ready for answers. Not yet. I studied her carefully, looking for cracks in the facade. Her smiles were still warm, her kisses still soft, but they felt different, like they didn't quite reach her eyes. And then there were the moments where I caught her staring at her phone, her face lit by the glow of the screen, her expression unreadable. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream. But the words died in my throat every time. Friday night. She was in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred a pot of pasta, the scent of garlic and herbs filling the air. For a moment, it felt normal. Like before, I watched her, memorizing the curve of her back, the way her hair caught the light. Say something. But instead, I walked up behind her, slipping my arms around her waist. Smells good, I murmured, pressing my lips to her neck. She tilted her head slightly, giving me access, but I felt it, the briefest hesitation. Thanks, she said softly, her tone lighter than usual. Almost ready. I wanted to believe that everything was okay, that we were okay. But my hand brushed against her phone on the counter, and I froze. Face down. Always face down. A flicker of heat sparked in my chest, spreading too fast, too strong. Who's been texting you so much lately? I asked casually, keeping my voice even. Her body stiffened. Barely, but I felt it. Your phone. I forced a smile, loosening my hold on her. Seems like it's been buzzing a lot. She turned the burner off and wiped her hands on a dish towel before finally facing me. Her eyes met mine, but something about her gaze felt guarded. Just work, she said softly, but her voice had that rehearsed quality, like she'd said it too many times to believe it herself. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the ring pressing against my thigh. I wanted to pull it out, show it to her, ask her who the hell it belonged to. But I didn't. Not yet. Later that night, she was curled up on the couch, her legs tucked under her, a glass of wine balanced in her hand. I sat beside her, close but not quite touching. Long day, I asked, my tone casual. She nodded, her eyes on the TV. Yeah, just a lot going on. Still that big project at work? Yeah. Her answers were clipped, like she was walking a tightrope and afraid of slipping. You ever think about taking a break? I asked softly, leaning back, watching her out of the corner of my eye. She hesitated. A break? Yeah. We haven't taken a weekend away in forever. I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice light. Just us. She gave me a quick smile, but it didn't touch her eyes. Maybe soon, she murmured, taking a sip of her wine. Maybe soon. I watched her, the ache in my chest growing. She was right here beside me, but I had never felt further from her. Saturday. I couldn't take it anymore. I was up early, pacing the kitchen, the weight of the ring burning a hole in my pocket. Claire was still asleep, her soft breathing drifting from the bedroom. I took the ring out, turning it over in my palm, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. Who does this belong to? I ran my thumb over the tiny charm, my stomach twisting. I had a choice. Confront her or dig deeper. My mind screamed for confrontation, but something held me back. What if I was wrong? What if this was all in my head? But I needed answers. I knew where to look. Her laptop. It was on the desk in the corner, closed but not locked. She had never bothered with passwords before. My fingers hovered over the lid. Don't do it. But I did. I lifted the screen, the glow filling the dim morning light. The home screen greeted me, innocent, normal. But I wasn't looking for normal. I opened her email first. Nothing unusual. Work emails. Bills. A confirmation for a spa appointment she hadn't mentioned. Then I saw it. A folder. It was tucked neatly in the corner of her desktop. Labeled, innocently enough, photos. My pulse thundered in my ears. I clicked it. And then the world tilted. Photo after photo. Her. Smiling. But not at me. Him. Tall. Dark-haired. Charismatic smile. In restaurants. In places I didn't recognize. A hand on her waist. His lips grazing her cheek. One photo stood out. Her in a hotel room. a different kind of smile on her face. The taste of bile rose in my throat, and I slammed the laptop shut, my chest heaving. My hands were shaking. I couldn't breathe. The world didn't make sense anymore. I sat there in the dim morning light, the laptop shut, but its poison still coursing through my veins. The images were burned into my mind. Claire's smile, her eyes alight with a joy I hadn't seen in months. But it wasn't for me. It was for him. Who the hell is he? The question echoed in my mind, but no answer would come. My fingers twitched, wanting to open the laptop again, to scour every pixel, every detail, but I couldn't. I couldn't look at her like that again. Not with him. The ring was still in my pocket, pressing into my skin like a brand. I had enough. More than enough. She woke up around 9. I heard her soft footsteps before I saw her, padding quietly down the hall. I was still at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee growing cold in front of me. My jaw clenched as her figure appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her favorite robe, her hair still tousled from sleep. "Morning," she murmured, her voice soft, carrying the remnants of a dream. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second, I saw it. A flicker, barely there, but unmistakable. Guilt. "Everything okay?" she asked, her brow furrowing. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. My throat felt like it was closing, strangling the truth before it could escape. Say it. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Yeah. I finally managed, my voice hoarse. Just didn't sleep well. She smiled, but it was tight around the edges. "Long week," she murmured, moving toward the coffee pot. "You want me to make fresh?" I shook my head, staring down at my untouched cup. "No, I'm good." She moved around the kitchen, but I felt her eyes on me. Quick glances, measuring. Does she know? I clenched my jaw, my knuckles whitening as I gripped the edge of the table. Not yet, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, going through the motions. I mowed the lawn, ran a few errands, anything to keep my mind occupied. But the weight never left me. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until she was in the shower. The sound of running water echoed down the hallway, masking my movements. I took the ring out of my pocket, holding it between my fingers. Time to end this. I walked to the bedroom and placed it on her nightstand, right where she would see it. No words, just the ring. I waited in the living room. The minutes stretched out, thick with anticipation. When she finally emerged, her hair damp and her skin flushed from the heat, I could see it immediately. She saw the ring. Her body went still. A beat, then another. "Evan," her voice was barely above a whisper, but I heard the tremor in it. I didn't move. "Where did you find this?" The words hung between us, heavy and suffocating. "Passenger seat of your car," I said quietly, my voice calm. Too calm. I finally looked up. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, but she was trying to hold it together. "Evan, I can explain." "Explain what?" I cut her off, my tone sharper than I intended. The dam was cracking, and I couldn't stop it now. "Explain how it got there? Whose it is?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. My chest felt like it was caving in. "Claire." My voice softened, but the ache was still there, raw and bleeding. "Please." She blinked, and for a moment, I saw something shatter in her eyes. "Don't lie to me. Not now." Her voice broke, her hands trembling as she reached for the nightstand, her fingers brushing the ring like it might somehow erase everything. "Don't," I whispered, and her hand froze midair. She swallowed hard, her throat bobbing, her gaze falling to the floor. "Who is he?" The words slipped out, barely a whisper, but they sliced through the air like a knife. Her silence was deafening. I felt it then, the final crack. The moment everything changed. "It's not what you think," she whispered, her voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it. My jaw clenched. "Then tell me. Make me believe that." Her eyes met mine, and I saw it. The truth. The thing I'd been dreading. But she didn't speak. Because we both knew. And then, she broke. Tears filled her eyes, her shoulders trembling as she sank onto the edge of the bed. "Evan," her voice was barely there. "How long?" Her head dropped, her hands covering her face. "Please, how long?" A long, shuddering breath. "For months." The room tilted, and I had to grip the edge of the table to stay upright. "For months." The world blurred, but I kept my eyes on her. even as my heart shattered into pieces I couldn't put back together. Who is he? Silence. Claire. Her lips trembled. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter? Doesn't matter? My voice cracked, disbelief and agony twisting together. You threw us away for someone who doesn't matter? She shook her head, her face crumbling. I didn't mean, but you did. The air felt heavier, thicker, suffocating. Is it serious? I forced the words out, even though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Her silence was the only answer I needed. My chest caved in, the weight of it crushing me. Jesus, Claire. My voice was barely above a whisper now. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered through her tears. I swear, Evan. I held up a hand, stopping her. I couldn't hear it. Not now. The world had shifted, and I was standing in the wreckage, alone. The silence that followed her confession was louder than anything I'd ever heard. It pressed down on me, suffocating, heavy with words that neither of us dared to speak. For months, that number echoed in my mind, carving deep grooves into my sanity. For months of lies. For months of stolen moments. For months where I had been loving her, believing in us, while I couldn't breathe. I stood there, watching Claire dissolve into quiet sobs, her face buried in her hands, her body trembling. But I couldn't go to her. Not this time. My feet felt rooted to the ground, but my world was spinning. Why? The word slipped out, barely a whisper, but it sliced through the silence like a knife. Her shoulders shook harder, her hands clutching her face as if she could block out the weight of my question. Claire. My voice was hoarse, raw. Why? Her fingers slowly dropped from her face, and when her eyes met mine, I saw it all. Guilt, shame, and something else. Something worse. Regret. I don't know. She whispered, her voice trembling. Don't. My tone was sharper than I intended, but I couldn't stop it. Don't say you didn't mean for it to happen. Her eyes filled with fresh tears, and she shook her head, her lips quivering. I didn't. I wasn't looking for this, Evan. Looking for this. I felt the words in my bones, heavy and jagged. But you found it anyway. Her face crumbled. I'm so sorry. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. Sorry for what, Claire? For lying? For sneaking around? Or, I swallowed hard, my throat thick with emotion. Or are you sorry you got caught? Her face went pale, and I saw the answer in her silence. My chest tightened, a deep ache spreading through me like poison. Was it worth it? My voice was quieter now, but the pain was thicker, heavier. Was he worth us? Her eyes welled up again, and she shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't about him, then what? I demanded, my voice cracking. What was it about, Claire? Tell me. Help me understand. Her lips trembled, and for a moment, I thought she might say something. But then her gaze dropped to the floor, and the silence stretched out between us, thicker than before. Nothing. There was nothing left to say. I turned away. I couldn't look at her anymore. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air too thick, suffocating. I needed space. I needed to breathe. I need to get out of here. I muttered, my voice barely holding together. Evan. Her voice cracked, and I heard the desperation in it. But I couldn't stop. Not now. I can't. I shook my head, my vision blurred with unshed tears. I need time. I didn't wait for her to respond. I grabbed my keys off the counter and headed for the door, my heart pounding in my ears. Evan, please. Her voice followed me, but I didn't turn back. I couldn't. The night air was cold. It hit me like a slap, but I barely felt it. I walked aimlessly, my feet moving on their own, my mind a storm of chaos. For months. For goddamn months. I pictured her with him. I didn't want to, but the images wouldn't stop. His hands on her. Her smile. The way she looked at him in those photos. I stumbled, my breath catching, and leaned against a lamppost, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. What the fuck do I do now? I ended up at the park. The same park where Claire and I used to go on Sunday mornings, back when life was simpler. Before the distance, before the lies. I sat on a bench, my head in my hands, trying to breathe. The memories came uninvited. Her laughter as she ran ahead of me, her hair catching the sunlight. The way she'd curl up next to me on the grass, her head resting on my shoulder. The way she used to look at me. Before everything shattered. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. Claire, please come home. Please. My thumb hovered over the screen, my heart pounding. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed space. I needed clarity. I put the phone down, running a hand through my hair, my mind racing. An hour passed. Maybe more. The world felt distant, muffled. I didn't know how long I sat there, staring into nothing. But eventually, I felt the numbness creeping in, dulling the edges of the pain. And then I made a decision. I couldn't live in this limbo. I had to know. When I got back home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Claire was sitting on the couch, her knees pulled to her chest, her face pale and blotchy from crying. She looked up the moment I walked in, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and fear. Evan, I didn't speak. I just walked to the coffee table, pulled the ring out of my pocket, and placed it between us. We're not doing this anymore, I said softly, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Her eyes welled up, her lips trembling. Tell me everything, I said quietly. No more lies. Her breath hitched, and I saw the moment she realized there was no way out. Okay, she whispered, her voice breaking. And just like that, the dam broke. The air in the room felt heavy, thicker than it should have been, like the weight of unspoken words had filled every corner, suffocating us both. Claire's eyes locked on the ring between us, her breathing shallow, her hands trembling where they rested on her knees. She didn't reach for it. She didn't speak. Start from the beginning, I said softly, but my voice felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else. She didn't look at me. Her gaze stayed fixed on that small, innocent thing that had shattered everything between us. The ring, a symbol of something I didn't understand yet. Evan, her voice was barely above a whisper, hoarse from crying. Don't. I shook my head, my jaw clenched. No more excuses. No more I didn't mean for it to happen. My throat tightened. I need the truth. Her shoulders slumped, and I watched the last of her defenses crumble. It started, her voice caught, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. Say it. About 6 months ago. I blinked. 6. My chest tightened, the air leaving my lungs. Not 4. 6. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. You said, my voice trailed off, the ache in my throat making it impossible to finish the sentence. I lied. Her eyes finally lifted to meet mine, and I saw it. Raw, unfiltered pain. I didn't know how to tell you. 6 months. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat, my mind spinning. How? I whispered, the word barely audible. Her eyes filled with tears again, and her gaze dropped back to her hands. His name is Mark. Mark. The name hit me like a freight train. From work. A nod. Jesus. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing the room, my chest tight and burning. How? She blinked, tears spilling down her cheeks. After that conference in Chicago, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Chicago. I remembered it now. 5 nights. She had called me every evening, told me how exhausting the days were, how she couldn't wait to come home. I'd stayed up late just to hear her voice, thinking it would bring me closer to her. Oh well. My stomach twisted. Why? My voice cracked, but I didn't care. I needed to hear it. I needed to understand what the hell had happened to us. Claire's face crumbled, and her head dropped into her hands as a sob racked her body. Evan. Why, Claire? My voice was louder now, the pain bubbling up, threatening to consume me. What did I do? What did we do to deserve this? Her head snapped up, and for the first time, I saw it, anger. Don't, she whispered, her voice shaking. Don't what? I demanded, my heart pounding in my ears. Don't act like this is all on me. Her voice cracked, her hands shaking. You think I woke up one day and just decided to throw everything away? I stared at her, stunned. What the hell are you talking about? Her lips trembled, her chest rising and falling as she fought to steady her breathing. Evan. Her voice was softer now, but her eyes, those eyes I had loved for so long, held something else. Something I hadn't seen in a while. Resentment. We've been drifting for a long time, she whispered, her voice breaking. We don't talk like we used to. You're always so distant. And she swallowed hard, her eyes welling up. I felt like I was invisible. My jaw clenched, and a wave of guilt hit me like a sledgehammer. Distant. I hadn't realized how far apart we had grown. But hearing it now, after everything, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. You didn't tell me. I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. I tried, she said, her voice cracking. So many times. But you didn't see it. My stomach dropped. Mark, he noticed. The name sent another wave of rage through me, but I swallowed it down, my fists clenched at my sides. He noticed. Did you love him? The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but I had to know. Claire's breath hitched, and for a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. But something about the way her eyes dropped told me the truth was more complicated. Then why? Because he made me feel, she broke off, her eyes filling with fresh tears. Feel what? I whispered, though part of me didn't want to know the answer. Like I mattered, she whispered, her voice barely holding together. Like I was seen. The words sliced through me, each syllable cutting deeper. I had done that to her. I had let the distance grow, let the silence settle between us. But it didn't justify this. I was right there, Claire. My voice was thick with emotion. I was always right there. Her eyes filled with tears. But it didn't feel like it, Evan. The weight of her words hit me like a freight train. I sank down onto the edge of the couch, my head in my hands, the ache in my chest spreading like wildfire. Why didn't you just talk to me? Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with the same ache that was tearing me apart. I tried, she murmured, her hands twisting in her lap. But by the time I realized how far we'd drifted, her voice caught, and her shoulders shook. It was too late. A heavy silence settled between us, thick with the weight of everything unsaid. What now? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Claire's eyes met mine, filled with a pain that mirrored my own. I don't know, she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I didn't either. The air between us was thick with silence, the kind that stretched and suffocated, pressing down on every unspoken word. I sat on the edge of the couch, my elbows on my knees, my head in my hands. I couldn't look at her. Not yet. Claire sat across from me, curled up in the corner of the couch, like she was trying to make herself smaller. Her knees were pulled to her chest, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. The distance between us felt impossible to bridge. How did we get here? I wanted to believe that love could withstand anything, that we could fix this somehow. But the weight of her betrayal and the hollow ache inside me whispered a different truth. Some things can't be undone. Evan. Her voice was barely above a whisper, fragile and trembling. But I couldn't look up. Say something, she pleaded, her tone breaking. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, my chest so tight it felt like I couldn't breathe. What do you want me to say? My voice was quieter than I intended, but the pain made it hard to speak. Tell me. Her voice cracked, and I heard the raw ache in it. Tell me how we fix this. Fix this. I finally lifted my head, meeting her gaze. Her eyes were red and puffy, her face pale. But I saw something else in her expression, desperation. She wanted me to tell her that we could fix it, that we could somehow rewind time and undo everything. But we couldn't. I leaned back, running a hand down my face, the exhaustion settling deep in my bones. Claire, I whispered, but I couldn't finish, because I didn't know what came next. Do you still love me? Her voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear it. But when I looked at her, the vulnerability in her eyes hit me like a punch to the gut. Do I still love her? The question echoed in my mind, and I hated that I didn't have an answer. I loved her. I always had. But love wasn't supposed to hurt like this. Evan. Her voice broke, and her eyes filled with fresh tears. Please. I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. Because I didn't know. How do you love someone who broke you? I don't know. The words slipped out, and her face crumbled. Her lips parted, her breath catching in her throat, and I saw the exact moment my answer shattered her. She blinked rapidly, her eyes searching mine. I don't know either. The confession hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, we just sat there, two people who used to be everything to each other, now lost in the wreckage of what we had built. Do you want to stay? The words came out before I could stop them. Her eyes widened, her breath hitching. She looked away, her teeth sinking into her bottom lip. Her silence was louder than any answer she could have given me. She doesn't know. And maybe that was worse than if she had said no. I can't keep doing this, Claire. My voice was barely above a whisper, but it was heavy with everything I couldn't say. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide and panicked. Evan, I can't wake up every day wondering if I'm enough. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. Wondering if you're thinking about him when you look at me. Her lips trembled. I'm not, don't. I shook my head, my throat tightening. Please, don't say it if it's not true. Her silence said it all. Maybe I couldn't finish. But Claire did. Maybe we need time. The words hung between us, thick and suffocating. Time. I didn't want time. I wanted her. I wanted us. But maybe wanting wasn't enough anymore. Is that what you want? My voice was quiet, but the weight behind the question was suffocating. Her eyes welled up with tears, her breath hitching. I don't know. Her voice was barely a whisper, her gaze dropping to her lap. She doesn't know. And that broke me more than anything else. I stood up, the ache in my chest almost unbearable. I can't. My voice cracked, and I cleared my throat, trying to hold it together. I can't be the only one fighting for this, Claire. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide and filled with tears. I don't want to lose you, she whispered, her voice shaking. Then fight for me. My voice was raw, filled with all the pain I'd been trying to bury. Because I can't do this alone. Silence. Her lips parted, but no words came. And that was all the answer I needed. I'll stay at David's for a while. The words felt foreign, like someone else was saying them. Her face went pale. Evan, please, I need time, I said softly, but my voice was firm. And I think so do you. Her face crumbled, tears streaming down her cheeks, but I couldn't comfort her. Not this time. I turned, my heart shattering with every step I took. Evan. Her voice was broken, filled with so much pain. But I couldn't stop. The door closed behind me, and the weight of it nearly brought me to my knees. I stood there, breathing in the cold night air, my chest heaving, my mind spinning. What the hell just happened? I had walked away. From her. From us. But maybe we had already been gone for a long time. The night air was cold, biting against my skin as I stood outside David's front door. My body felt numb, but it had nothing to do with the chill. What the hell did I just do? I'd walked away. From Claire. From the life we had built together. My hand hovered over the doorbell, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. Not yet. Because once I did, it would be real. This is real, Evan. The ache in my chest deepened, the weight of it making it hard to breathe. David opened the door after the second knock. Evan. His eyes widened in surprise, but it quickly faded as he took in the look on my face. Jesus, man, come in. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I stepped inside, and the warmth of his house hit me, but it didn't touch the cold that had settled in my bones. Claire, David asked softly, his eyes searching mine for answers. I shook my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. She. My voice cracked, and I couldn't finish. David didn't press. Come on, he murmured, guiding me toward the living room. Sit down. I'll get you a drink. The scotch burned going down, but it didn't touch the fire in my chest. I stared at the glass in my hands, watching the amber liquid swirl as my mind spun in 1,000 directions. Do you want to talk about it? David asked quietly, sitting across from me. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. What the hell was I supposed to say? My wife cheated on me. I found pictures of her with him. I don't know if I can ever forgive her. The words felt too heavy, too raw to speak aloud. So I just shook my head. David didn't push. He just sat there, the silence stretching between us. And somehow that was enough. The days blurred together. I stayed at David's, but I wasn't really there. I went through the motions, work, eat, sleep, but everything felt hollow. Like I was watching my life happen from the outside, disconnected and numb. Claire texted. She called. But I couldn't bring myself to answer. What would I even say? The distance between us wasn't just physical now. It was something deeper, and I didn't know if it could ever be bridged. 3 weeks passed. The silence between us stretched longer with each day, thickening like a fog that neither of us knew how to navigate. I thought about going home, about facing her, about trying to rebuild what was left. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her. With him. And it gutted me all over again. Then one night, she showed up. It was late. David had gone to bed, and I was sitting on the back porch, nursing a drink and staring at the stars. The soft sound of footsteps pulled me from my thoughts. Evan, her voice. Soft. Broken. I didn't turn around. David let me in. I nodded, but I still couldn't look at her. Can I? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Can I sit? My throat tightened, but I nodded again. She sat down beside me, but not too close. The space between us was palpable, heavy with everything we weren't saying. You haven't answered my calls. Her voice was quiet, but I heard the pain in it. I know. Silence. I didn't know if. She paused, her breath catching. If you ever would. I finally turned to look at her. Her eyes were red, her face pale, and I could tell she hadn't been sleeping much either. I didn't know if I could, I admitted softly. Her lips trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. Evan, her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I looked away, the ache in my chest swelling again. I know. I whispered, but the words felt hollow. I don't know how to fix this, she murmured after a long silence. Her voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear it. Neither do I. The truth hung heavy between us. We can't. My voice trailed off, my throat tight. We can't go back, Claire. Her head dropped, her shoulders shaking as silent tears fell. I know, she whispered, her voice barely holding together. I swallowed hard, my eyes burning as I stared at the stars. We couldn't go back. But maybe. Do you still want to try? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide and filled with raw emotion. Yes. The word came out so quickly, so full of desperation and hope, that it nearly broke me. I don't know if I can forgive you. My voice cracked, the weight of the truth crushing me. Her face crumbled, but she didn't look away. I know. Her voice was barely there, but her eyes never left mine. But I want to try. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she nodded, her lips trembling. Me too, she whispered, her voice breaking. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something other than pain. It's not going to be easy, I murmured, my throat tight. I don't care. Her voice was steady, despite the tears streaming down her face. I'll do whatever it takes, Evan. I'll fight for us. Her words hit me hard, but I saw the truth in her eyes. She meant it. And maybe, just maybe, we weren't completely broken. The road ahead was long, filled with pain, doubt, and wounds that might never fully heal. But for the first time, I wasn't standing at the edge alone. Claire was beside me, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The weight of betrayal is heavy, and the path to healing is never easy. But sometimes love, real love, is worth fighting for, even in the face of unimaginable pain.